Well, cosmetic surgery is gaining a lot of popularity, especially with trends on social media. But while the industry is growing, there are risks for patients as well, something important to know. Tyra is in the ARC Lounge this morning with Dr. Kate D., a Seattle-based med spa founder who performs medical aesthetic procedures. Tyra.
Thank you, Mo. Yeah, a lot of people are looking into cosmetic surgeries and different types, but it is important to do it the right way. Dr. D, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we want to get into your book, and congratulations on it, by the way.
Thank you.
Before we get into your book, yeah, I'm very excited to hear about it. Just want to get more of your background here. You transitioned to aesthetic medicine after a career as a breast cancer specialist. What was that transition like, and what attracted you to this industry?
Well, I did that about 10 years ago, and obviously breast cancer was very serious. And I transitioned to do aesthetic medicine, where it was kind of a lot of needle procedures and talking to women all day, but you make them happy, which I had never gotten to do before, telling people they had breast cancer. But immediately I found that there are so many people practicing medicine unethically in the space. And in the last 10 years that I've been in it, the industry's grown exponentially. And I would say well over half that growth are people jumping into it illegally.
So expanding on that, what are some of those unethical and illegal practices?
Well, there are so many, and I do elaborate them all in the book, but I would say the top three are, first of all, practicing medicine illegally without a license, which, according to my lawyer friends, is a felony. The next, I would say, is purchasing illegal products, which can be fake or tainted. And I've interviewed people who've had botulism and have had rip-roaring bacterial infections from tainted products ordered off of Alibaba.
Wow.
So, and I would say the third one is really offering or even pushing people to do things that won't really help them or they don't really need if they're willing to pay for it. And I just think that that's unethical.
So you mentioned while doing research for this book, Med Spa Mayhem, you did lots of interviews. What did you discover when talking to people? What are some of those disturbing stories? You mentioned some of the malpractices already, but anything specifically?
Well, there was one woman who's actually here in King County who had a vascular occlusion, which is a kind of a dreaded complication of dermal filler, and she is now scarred across her face and lost half her nose. There was another young woman who went to an illegal med spa. This was actually in California, and she was sent to the hospital for over 3 months, almost died. She's now scarred all over her body. So it can be really very dangerous.
What are some of those health concerns? Obviously, death, worst case scenario. But what are some of those other health dangers that you warn people about?
Well, death has actually happened, believe it or not, at IV bars, which are very dangerous. There's no quicker way to kill somebody than to put something directly into their vein. Disfigurement, as I've mentioned, and then just being ripped off. I mean, that's really common, getting something that didn't really help you, or if you've ever seen people who look really odd and you wonder what the heck they did, they probably had unnecessary filler that did not make them look good but cost them a lot of money.
Wow. So it's costly, it's a danger to your health, and for those people who are unethically practicing, they can face charges. Sounds like they can,
well, they
face some
should.
repercussions
And
too.
unfortunately, the laws are really not being enforced. And so, for instance, that woman in California who did that to that young woman, she's still out there doing that.
Wow.
It's up to a DA to prosecute, and oftentimes they're not, interested. So, yeah, the law enforcement is just lacking.
Definitely need some solutions when it comes to catching those bad actors. But obviously, these types of procedures and appearance, that stuff isn't going to go away. People are going to want to hop on these fads or rearrange their appearance in ways. What are the steps they need to take to make sure they're doing it safely and also, I don't know, maybe even affordably?
Well, the number one thing is to ask what the license is of the person they're about to see, and then actually look that up. Both doctors and nurses have a lookup tool where you can look up their license and prove that they're actually licensed to do it. The other thing is to ask who the medical director is and look their license up, because a lot of times the medical director of the spa actually doesn't even know how to practice aesthetics and isn't present, and that person in the spa who's doing stuff to you is really operating illegally, sort of renting somebody's license. And the third thing to do is to ask to have the good faith exam. So a lot of these illegal spas are skipping that step. And in this country, you have to have an assessment and treatment plan done by a doctor or a PA who's working under a doctor or a nurse practitioner. And that person has to prescribe that treatment to you before you can proceed and have that. And a lot of places are skipping that step. And that's one really good indication that that place is cutting corners. And so ask to have the good faith exam with one of those qualified practitioners and look up their license.
Lots of research for sure. It sounds like it's up to the consumer to really do their due diligence.
Well, at this moment it is, because there's very little enforcement of the law, though there are a lot of laws that apply to medicine. In hospitals and doctors' offices, they're very highly regulated. But in the med spa world, a lot of people have set up shop and nobody's checking. So even just to perform facials or waxing, you have to have a special cosmetology license and a shop license, and the cosmetology board will come inspect you. But for all the other stuff that we do with lasers that could blind people, with filler that could blind people, nobody's doing any inspections, and there's no accreditation currently.
And just one more question for you. You've mentioned some of them, but what would you say are some of the trends when it comes to cosmetic procedures, or even, I don't know, I'm not super familiar with the types of things people get, so maybe you can enlighten me. What's trending right now where you're maybe seeing most of those bad actors setting up shop because they know that there's a need for it?
Well, I think that the most common thing that people know about is Botox or neurotoxin, and that's become, pretty normal now, and it's like a haircut. But more and more people are doing filler as well, and that's a much more dangerous thing. And injectables are something that has a pretty low cost of entry. And there are, believe it or not, weekend courses that some people can go take, and they think, oh, now I have a skill. And they may not even know that they're practicing medicine, and they may not even know they're doing it illegally. But it's super dangerous to go see one of those people who has absolutely no medical knowledge to do that.
Goodness. Well, this was so informational. Thank you so much for coming on and enlightening all of us. Med Spa Mayhem is currently out now by Dr. Kate D. Where can people get your book? Is that online?
It's online. It's everywhere books are sold.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Mo? So critical. People know about this, right?
You have to question, vet things, research, ask the opinions of other experts. Something we often don't think about. It's good, all that knowledge, though, is instilled in a book. So hopefully no consumer or any person, falls victim to this again.